I'm going to call this a tale from a crypt. We're in the far northwest corner of the Sheraton Cemetery again, and it's late afternoon. And that gives you a little idea of where we're at. This odd little structure in the distance with a bronze cartouche that says Lockwood has always been something of a mystery to passers-by because there's no indication of who's buried inside. I've been told that originally there were inscriptions on the door, but the door has been covered by 2 coats of stucco, and that apparently has covered the inscription entirely. There's no secret about who's buried inside. Their names are Sarah and George Lockwood. The Lockwoods were jewelers whose shop was on the west side of the square, uptown. Their building is on the west side. It's a narrow structure, blonde brick with a bay window. And if you look up, you'll see the name Lockwood high in the gable. The Lockwoods had their shop on the first floor, and they lived on the second floor in what was for its time a very grand apartment, and still is, although it hasn't been touched in many years. Sarah died in that apartment during October of 1909 at the age of 70. And even then, apparently she and George had been talking about a vault rather than in-ground burial for themselves, because her remains were parked temporarily in the Stanton vault here at the cemetery, which also served as kind of a motel for corpses that were in transit at the time. George himself died a few months later, during June of 1910, and his remains were placed with those of Sarah in the Stanton vault. And construction began during July of 1910 and was completed during August. There were actually 2 vaults being constructed in the Sheraton Cemetery at the time. The far grander was, and still is, the Copeland Mausoleum, which is southeast of here, entirely made of granite and marble. And this far more modest structure, which is brick with a concrete slab top. When the vault was completed during August of 1910, George and Sarah were installed and the door was sealed, and that was that. But as the years passed, the vault began to deteriorate. And some years later, the city of Sheraton made an arrangement with the Lockwood's only son, John, who lived in Illinois at the time. And under that deal, he traded the real estate around the vault, and there's quite a bit of it, to the city, and the city in turn promised to repair and maintain the vault. And that was the first time the brickwork was repaired, and a good coat of stucco was applied to the exterior, and the door was sealed, and the inscription apparently obscured. As the years passed, it began to deteriorate again, and within the last 5 years or so, a second coat of stucco has been applied, and now it's beginning to peel. Just a little bit too, I see. But hopefully, the Lockwoods, who have been here for more than 100 years, have another 100 years to enjoy their odd little permanent home.